Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Reading from Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Madhyakanda, chapter 13. The famous story of Nityananda Prabhu's encounter with Jaga and Madai and their subsequent deliverance. Yesterday we read the first part of the story, their first encounter where they were chased. They attempted to give, on Mahaprabhu's instruction, Nityananda and Haridasa beginning Mahaprabhu's preaching mission, and they approach Jaga and Madai and abused and chased. They escape and they run away, they escape and return with their report to Mahaprabhu. So we're at that stage in the story. They found Lord Chaitanya sitting amidst all the Vaishnavas. His exquisite beauty flowed from every part of his transcendental form. His eyes were like two fully bloomed lotuses. His beauty caused Madan, the god of love, to swoon. In the assembly, they were discussing Krishna-conscious topics. Excuse me. And sometimes the Lord would reveal the transcendental truth about himself. It was as if the Lord of Vaikuntha, Narayan, was sitting to discourse with Shanaka and other sages. Nityananda and Haridas narrated their day's experience to the assembly. A strange incident occurred today. We came across two drunks, totally intoxicated, and we were told they were from Brahmin families. We thought of doing them a good turn and requested them to chant Krishna's holy name. But they reacted violently and chased us. We could barely escape with our lives. Sri Chaitanya said, "What persons are these? What are their names? Being Brahmanas, why do they act in this coarse manner?" Srivas and Gangadas were sitting close to the Lord, and they spoke. "My Lord, these two persons are Jagai and Madai. Their father is a pious Brahmana, but bad company has spoiled these two. Now they know only intoxication. Their names instill fear in the hearts of the people, and they live by stealing, looting, and violence. It is impossible to describe how fallen they are." But you see everything and know everything, my Lord. Sri Chaitanya answered, "I will show these two rogues. I will cut them to pieces if they come in front of me." Sweetly, Nityananda said, "You may cut them to pieces, but I will not move from there. If they are not alive, how will I be able to carry out your mission? Why are you getting so angry with them? Allow me to first make them chant Sri Krishna's name. The pious will naturally chant Krishna's name, but these two know only irreligious activities. If you deliver them and bring them into devotional service, then your fame as Patita Pavana, deliverer of the fallen, will remain intact. Your fame as Patita Pavana has increased after saving me, but that fame will reach to unlimited bounds if you deliver these two." Laughing, Vishvambara said, "They are already liberated. As soon as these two rogues saw you, they were delivered. As you are so concerned about their welfare, Krishna will very soon take full care of them." The devotees broke out into jubilant shouts of Hari, Hari when they heard Sri Chaitanya's words, and they were convinced that the sinners were already saved. There's an interesting point here being made that if the will of the Vaishnava is for someone's spiritual benefit, then Krishna will respond to that desire of the Vaishnava, will act accordingly, and the spiritual liberation, in this case, the spiritual welfare of that person is guaranteed. So it all begins with the compassionate or the benevolent intention, the benevolent will of the Vaishnava. And Krishna will then act upon that will and bestow his mercy to the object of that Vaishnava's goodwill. Hence the imperative, the crucial function of the goodwill of the Vaishnava. Without it, there is no possibility, no prospect of Krishna bestowing his mercy. It must come through the expediency of the Vaishnava, via their blessings, via their goodwill. Similarly, the converse is that the lack of goodwill of the Vaishnava necessarily means the converse in terms of Krishna's delivery of his mercy. It will not come if there is no goodwill towards one on the part of the Vaishnava. So said that it's the all in all. That's the saying. It's the Vaishnava's grace is the all in all. Crucial factor. Haridas spoke to Advaita Acharya. The Lord has sent me out with an extremely restless person. If I go in one direction, he will find another. He will jump into the crocodile-infested swelling monsoon waters of the Ganga and try to catch the crocodiles. I stand on the banks shouting for him to return, but he ignores everything and floats downstream like a dead man. If he sees a young boy on the banks, he suddenly gets up and goes shouting angrily after the boy. Soon the boy's irate parents arrive with sticks, and I have to plead and beg with them before sending them away. He steals butter and cream from the milkman and then runs away. And when I get caught, they want to beat me up. He's always doing the sort of activities that are incorrigible and beyond all logic. He comes across a young maiden. He asks her to marry him. He sits on a bull shouting, Mahesh, Lord Shiva. And if he sees a cow, he milks her and drinks the milk. When I try to advise him on his activities, he mocks you, saying, what can that Advaita of yours do to me? And that person you call Chaitanya, what can he do to me? I repeat nothing of all this to Sri Chaitanya. Today I was saved only by the Lord's grace. These two drunks were lying in the street in a stupor, and he went up to them and tried to preach to them about Krishna. They were enraged and charged at us. We were saved from death today only by your mercy. Very much amused, Advaita said, this is nothing special for him. An intoxicated person should join other drunks. He is drunk with Krishna Prem, so he should join the other two. As a renunciate devotee, you have no business in such company. I know Nityananda's character and ability. He will make everyone intoxicated with divine love. Wait another few days. He will also bring those two into the Vaishnava fold. So Advaita Acharya's relationship with Lord Nityananda is somewhat complex, we might say. We can read passages where pastimes where they get into some quite we might call boisterous arguments, and may appear to criticize one another, but then also they praise one another. So the attitude is somewhat bittersweet. Some followers have taken it the wrong way but and concluded that there was some rift between the two. But Vrindavan Das Thakur has made it clear, and is quite emphatic, that any person who is, you could say, draws a wrong conclusion or draws an offensive conclusion based on taking sides in such a apparent rift, well, they will do so to their own detriment. In other words, it is best to view such complex or even contradictory relationship between, in this case, Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu, or that specifically, or in a general sense, any advanced devotees, as something that is more akin to Leela, or at least is producing some kind of benefit that an outside viewer may not be privy to, and thus they should not cast aspersions on it, they should not judge it, and they should not take sides, because doing so will not be in their own best interest. Advaita Acharya was suddenly overcome with anger, and he threw his clothes away from his body and started strongly chastising. He said, "I want to hear everything about Chaitanya's devotion to Lord Krishna, how he sings and dances. What is the extent of his potency? Just wait and see tomorrow. Nimai and Nitai will bring those two drunks with them and dance with them here, and have them mingle with all the other Vaishnavas. Let us not run away from here to save our caste." Haridas laughed at Advaita Acharya's angry mood and was relieved and reassured that the two drunks would be saved. Who is able to really fathom the inner meaning of Advaita's words? Only personalities like Haridas Thakur can understand that he is of that same spiritual caliber. Many may misunderstand the real position of Advaita Acharya in relation to the other associates of the Lord. The Lord himself criticized Gadadhara Pandit. If ignorant observers see these as mundane material disagreements, then they invite their own doom. Any person who sides with one Vaishnav against another Vaishnav and thus criticizes is destined to be destroyed. That's what we were talking about just before. The two drunks were as usual going about to different places of the town. By some divine arrangement, they came and set up their evil den on the banks of the Ganga near a bathing place frequented by Sri Chaitanya. From there, they went about their business of terrorizing the people. The entire neighborhood was in the grips of terror, whether they were rich, poor, or misers. After dusk, no one ventured to the Ganga for their evening ablutions, and if at all, then only in large groups. So they were like two-man waves of terror, essentially. Sometimes you read in the paper about the police finally catching a local rogue, and they'll describe him as a one-man wave of terror. So if one person is dedicated to causing trouble in the neighborhood, essentially they can really terrorize quite a significant number of people. So these two were working in tandem, and they seems like they had large swathes of Navadvip pretty much on lockdown after dark. There, on the banks of the Ganga, Jaga and Marai spent their nights close to the Lord's house. Every night they heard the Lord's kirtan, and staying up whole nights, they heard the sweet kirtan accompanied by mridanga and cymbals. They danced a drunken jig to the sound of the kirtan, greatly amused at themselves. The kirtan and their dancing increased their appetite for more wine. At times, listening to the kirtan, and at other times getting up to dance, all this went on in a state of drunken stupor. They were totally drowned in intoxication, oblivious of time and place. Once, when they accidentally met the Lord, they remarked to him, "Oh, Nimai Pandit, it is nice that you sing. I want to see how you sing the Mangala Chandi, verses in glorification of Durga Devi. I want to see how you sing the Mangala Chandi every night. I will bring all the paraphernalia for the Chandi Kirtan. Sri Chaitanya kept a distance from them, seeing their drunken state, but other people went a different way altogether to escape these rogues. So we can...
It's interesting how Vrindavan Das Thakur describes those things in greater detail, something what Krishnadas Kaviraj didn't describe.
Yes.
I think Krishnadas Kaviraj is also saying that, he's also referencing Vrindavan Das, saying that, things I won't cover would be presented in greater detail by Vrindavan Das.
Yes, yes. Well, it was done intentionally because the Chaitanya Bhagavat preceded the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It was the original complete biography of Mahaprabhu. Before the Chaitanya Bhagavat, you had the Kadacha of Murari Gupta and the diary of Swarup Damodar, on which many of these books sourced their material from. But the first complete biography was the Chaitanya Bhagavat. And so, so basically, when Krishnadas Kaviraj was authoring the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he did so knowing the content of the Chaitanya Bhagavat and not wanting to duplicate it unnecessarily. And he says that himself, as you mentioned. So the pastimes that are described in detail, comprehensively, in the Chaitanya Bhagavat are only touched upon cursorily in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and those that are not touched upon, they're explained more exhaustively in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So the two work in harmony with each other rather than duplicating or without any unnecessary repetition. But it was originally called the Chaitanya Mangala, right? And then Lochandas wrote his biography and he called it the Chaitanya Bhagavat. No, he called it the Chaitanya Mangal, sorry. And then rather than have two books, with the same title, and thus generate confusion, they came to a consensus that the Chaitanya Mangal would be renamed the Chaitanya Bhagavat. It was done at a later date. And that's why you will even see in the references to this in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's referred to as the Chaitanya Mangal. It hadn't been renamed at that stage. But it was renamed Chaitanya Bhagavat because it was felt to be a very appropriate title as Vrindavan Das was considered the Vyas of Chaitanya Leela, and Vyas being the author of the Bhagavat. Naturally, in Chaitanya Leela, his book could be called the Chaitanya Bhagavat. Yeah. But Gurudev has said that the Chaitanya Bhagavat is written more from a perspective of rasa, more culturing the rasa. And the Chaitanya Charitamrita is tattva and philosophy. Both contain tattva and, siddhanta and rasa, but the Chaitanya Bhagavat explores and is more of a rasa text, and the Chaitanya Charitamrita has more of a siddhantic flavor. Although both rasa and siddhanta can be extracted from both, no doubt. But Gurudev made that observation himself. We're going to read a little bit from Sri Guru and His Grace. It's interesting, we noted yesterday how what we're reading at the moment, just at this current point from Sri Guru and His Grace and the Chaitanya Bhagavat, they're running parallel, identical themes. Nityananda Prabhu walked from door to door in Bengal, saying, "Take the name of Gauranga, I'll become your servant. You can purchase me if you only take the name of Gauranga. I will be sold to you without any price or condition. So we were reading yesterday, or the day before, how Mahaprabhu gave his mandate to Nityananda Prabhu to preach in Bengal. And it says that initially Nityananda Prabhu was asking people, take the name of Krishna, take the name of Krishna. And then later he you could say modified it, refined it, saying take the name of Gauranga, chant Gauranga. And the mantra is that his mantra that he was repeating, his message was Bhaja Gauranga, Kaha Gauranga, Laha Gaurangera Nam, Ye Jan Gauranga Bhajye, say hi Amara Pran. Which means that if you take Gauranga, worship Gauranga, sing, talk about Gauranga, this is my life and soul, you will be, it's like, this is my life and soul, and you will be my life and soul if you chant Gauranga's name and worship Gauranga. That was his temperament. When Mahaprabhu was in Puri, he sent Nityananda Prabhu to Bengal. At the time, he said, without you, I don't find anyone who can spread the holy name of Krishna or devotional service to Krishna in Bengal. They are more engaged in the tantric method and smriti. They make too much of these trifling things. They are puffed up, thinking that they have finished all knowledge. So Bengal is a very hard field for preaching. Without you, no one will be able to awaken the masses. Separate yourself from the higher castes and approach the masses with the holy name of Krishna. You are the fittest person for this work. So another point here, we can see that Nityananda Prabhu tends to favor those that are actually, one could say, from a certain measure, the least eligible for spiritual mercy. We could say that one living a very moral life, cultivating ethical qualities, honesty and responsibility, and self-discipline and sobriety, and all of these various qualities that may lead to progressive sattvic life, we can say that they are, generally speaking, deserving of divine mercy. But Nityananda Prabhu, from his perspective, the most needy people, thus we could say the most deserving of the down and outers, and that's why it's called Patita Pavana. And Mahaprabhu is also Patita Pavana, but if Mahaprabhu is merciful, Nityananda must be doubly merciful. So the function of Patita, the fallen, Pavan, the rescuing of the fallen. So Nityananda Prabhu targets those sectors, those people that are the most fallen. And the whole story of Jagai and Madai is illustrating this principle, that those who are really, we could say from that measure, unqualified for spiritual grace, they are the ones receiving the grace of Nityananda Prabhu. And not just unqualified in the sense that they may be down and out drunks, but unqualified in the sense that they may be infested with pride, proud of their knowledge, antithetical to the concepts of bhakti due to an obsession with the trifling benefits of tantra and the smarta systems, the working with the Maya Shakti, the material energy, to obtain some kind of benefit from that. And that can seem like that can produce what may be seen as spiritual results, quasi-spiritual results. And thus, based on an attachment to that, the person's chances of engaging in bhakti are quite slim. And thus, they become a target for Nityananda Prabhu because of their separation from bhakti. So we can see also with Srila Prabhupada, where did he go? Lower East Side of New York. It wasn't a place where there was famed for its moral culture, or famed even for its developed material culture. There was nothing salubrious or upstanding about the place. But that person who is the Shaktavesha avatar of Nityananda Prabhu, he goes there. So we see the the places, the sectors, the people and sections of society that are most undeserving, they have become the targets of Nityananda Prabhu. So Bengal is a very hard field for preaching. Without you, no one will be able to awaken the masses. And one last point of this is that Guru Maharaj specifically chose Aparad Bhanjanera Pad for several reasons. One of the reasons, of course, is the famous one. It's the place where offences are forgiven. Another reason is that that section was the residence of some pundits, scholars that were very inimical to Mahaprabhu's teachings and conception. And no one Vaishnav had been able to, let's say, make a foothold in that area of Navadvip. Even though Navadvip is the birthplace of Mahaprabhu, there's one section there, it's a pocket, you could say, of a pocket of antipathy towards Mahaprabhu. So Guru Maharaj went there to change that. After going to Eka Chakra and praying for the mercy of Nityananda, he goes to that place which is most antithetical in Navadvip. That was one of the reasons. Gurudev mentions it. Nityananda Prabhu went to Bengal, but without trying to preach the glories of the holy name of Krishna, Nityananda began to preach the name of Gauranga. Nityananda Prabhu found that there is some danger of thinking that Krishna's pastimes are very much akin to the mundane debauchery, lying and stealing of the degraded soul. Krishna's pastimes are of a highly confidential nature. It is difficult for the masses to understand the purity of Krishna Lila. And the mass mind cannot accept Krishna Lila as the highest attainment. So, Nityananda Prabhu found it would be difficult to preach Krishna Lila, but he found it would be easy to preach Gaura Lila, where Krishna has come to distribute himself to the public with so much capital in mind. Gauranga means a dynamo which wants to distribute Krishna, surcharged with the most magnanimous, intensified pity and kindness for the ordinary people, with the greatest affection even for the criminals. Nityananda Prabhu wanted to bring them in connection with Gauranga, for then Krishna Lila would automatically be within their fist. He began to preach about Gauranga, not Radha Krishna, as commanded by Mahaprabhu. So, here we go. Nityananda Prabhu says, Bhaja Gauranga, Kaha Gauranga, Laha Gauranga Ranam. Worship Gauranga, speak only of Gauranga, and chant the name of Gauranga. Jai, to the Guru Maharaj ki Jai. We'll finish now. You want to do the chanting?
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha Gopala Sundaram Shri Madhusudan Girinari Gopinath
Shri Guru Vaishnav Pada Padma Kori Asha Harinam Sankirtan Kore Narodamodasa Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Jai Sipadhikara Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Radha Giridhari Ji Ki Jai Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmalacharya Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Srila Guru Dev Ki Jai Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakhak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Saranta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Shri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Samaveda Vaishnav Mandal Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat West London Ki Jai Nitai Go Premanandi Hari Hari Bo